Let's explore autistic history and the Autism Wars. This is part 120 of a series. Before I get started in this article that I'm going to share with you that was published in Life magazine back on May 7th, 1965, let me warn you, this is very difficult to hear, and it's very difficult to know what happened to these kids in the name of ABA and Ivar Lovaas' research. So there's a huge content warning for all of autistic history, but especially as we get into articles like this one titled Screams, Slaps, and Love. A surprising, shocking treatment helps far gone mental cripples. And again, this was in 1965 that this article was published. This article you can find online. Google for that headline, and there'll be several places it pops up in print, PDF, and text. So it's out there. And this article was written by Don Moser, M-O-S-E-R. And here we go. Let's start with it. It says, a surprising, shocking treatment helps far gone mental cripples. And the article is titled Screams, Slaps, and Love. Enraged bellows at the boy, then a sharp slap in the face. This deliberate, calculated harshness is part of an extraordinary new treatment for mentally crippled children. It is based on the old-fashioned idea that the way to bring up children is to reward them when they're good and punish them when they're bad. At the University of California in Los Angeles, a team of researchers is applying this precept to extreme cases. They have taken on 3 boys and a girl with special form of schizophrenia called autism. Utterly withdrawn children whose minds are sealed against all human contact and whose uncontrolled madness has turned their homes into hells. And by alternating methods of shocking roughness with persistent and loving attention, the researchers have broken through the first barriers. Now, if you find this article online in the PDF form, it will come with images of these children and what's happening. And let me warn you, they are really horrific to see, some of them, especially since in one case, you'll see a child named Pamela who is reacting to being electrocuted through shocks coming through the floor on her bare feet. So, yeah. The subhead here states, at the start, appalling gallery of madness. It says at the beginning of the UCLA test last June, the 4 autistic children were assembled in a small room bare of playthings. Such children do not play. Closeted in their private bedrooms, they went through their endless, senseless activities. Pamela, 9, performed her macabre pantomime, and Ricky, 8, loved to flop his arms, waggle his fingers, and cover his head with a blanket. Chuck, 7, would alternate his rocking with spells of sucking his thumb and whimpering. Billy, 7, like so many of the thousands of autistic children in the U.S., would go into gigantic tantrums and fits of self-destruction, beating his head black and blue against walls. Billy and Chuck could not talk at all. Pamela would infuriatingly parrot back everything said to her. Ricky had a photographic memory for jingles and ads, which he chanted hour after hour. The causes of their strange affliction are uncertain. Like most other autistic children, these 4 are healthy and coordinated, neither brain damaged nor retarded. But the team conducting the experiment at UCLA is not interested in causes. In this, their approach goes against the grain of almost all other modern psychiatric treatment, which tries to first to find a child's core neurosis and then treats that. Dr. Ivar Lovaas, a 38-year-old creator of the UCLA project, argues that you have to put out the fire first before you worry how it started. Okay. An assistant professor of psychology at UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute, Lovaas believes the whole present concept of mental illness is flawed because it relieves the patient of responsibility for his actions. Lovaas is convinced, on basis of his experience and that of other researchers, that by forcing a change in a child's outward behavior, he can effect an inward psychological change. For example, if he could make Pamela go through the motions of paying attention, she would begin eventually to pay genuine attention. Lovaas feels that by 1, holding any mentally crippled child accountable for his behavior, and 2, forcing him to act normal, he can push the child toward normality. This next subhead is said punishment for Pamela, an electric jolt. What I'm about to share is really, really horrific, but if you in your mind are thinking, well, today in 2023, electric shocks are not being used as therapy on autistic children, that's a thing of the past. Unfortunately, that is not true. Look up Judge Rotenberg Center, JRC. There will be more about that going towards in the future, but horrible treatment through electric shocks is still happening in the United States, and it's taxpayer funded. All right, the article states the most drastic innovation in Lovaas' technique is punishment, instantly, immutably dished out to break down the habits of madness. His rarely used last resort is the shock room. At one point, Pamela had been making progress, learning to read a little, speak a few words sensibly. But then she came to a blank wall, drifting off during lessons into her wild expressions and gesticulations. Scoldings and stern shakings did nothing. Like many autistic children, Pamela simply did not have enough anxiety to be frightened. Now I'm going to show about 3 seconds of this picture coming up next of Pamela on this floor, so heads up. All right, and that photo was published with this article in Life. So, going on, to give her something to be anxious about. So that photo I just showed you was her receiving electric shock through the floors on her bare feet in the shock room. All right, so to give her something to be anxious about, she was taken to the shock room where the floor is laced with metallic strips. 2 electrodes were put on her bare back and her shoes removed. When she resumed her habit of staring at her hand, Lovaas sent a mild jolt of current through the floor into her bare feet. It was harmless but uncomfortable. With instinctive cunning, Pamela sought to mollify Lovaas with hugs. But he insisted she go on with her reading lesson. She read for a while, then lapsed into a screaming fit. Lovaas, yelling no, turned on the current. Pamela jumped, learned a new respect for no. All right, I'm going to stop this here. The next section that I'm going to share in the next video is titled The Rewards, Food, and Affection.